people quickly share out? Anybody? Anybody want to share? Because I heard some really great things as I was walking around. I heard some things about notebooks, and I heard some things about graphic organizers and flow charts and talking about data and kids. We can share out Miss Pauline. Go ahead.
At my old school, we had a binder, and when there were papers that were outlined with information that the teacher had to fill out prior to coming to PLT, and then on the bottom part was where we all discussed what resources we could use or what we could do to change, whatever needed to be changed or improve whatever needed to be improved, and it got written on there. And so we always knew who we had talked about. It was always in there. It stayed in that binder, and we always knew when we had last talked and what was being done.
That's great.
Yeah,
Anybody else?
I brought up, we used to have those orange folders here, although tedious to fill out, granted. It was helpful to see, this is what they're struggling with. This is the intervention we tried. It didn't quite work. Now we did this. We talked to this person in this grade or this specialist in this area. It was very logical, and it sounds similar, and it was something to take out and provide evidence, along the way. So
Great.
I think that's what Kid Talk is.
Great, great. So I heard some great things. Anybody else dying to share out? I'm going to keep on going. Oh. And so Kid Talk, that was kind of when you guys were brainstorming. It's really our times when teams are discussing individuals, and it can also be groups of students. And it's to problem solve achievement gaps in both academics and behavior. So you're really looking at both. And Kid Talk is focused on things that educators have the most control over. And you're going to be hearing the MTSS team as we talk to you guys, our group that's been going to the meetings, you're going to hear us talk about ISIL. And right here I have ICE up here. In our MTSS, the ICE, Instruction, Curriculum, Environment, does anyone want to take a guess at what the L is? Someone that's not on MTSS.
Learning.
Sorry, Betsy. You got it. Who said it? Learner, right here, I think. So you do not want to put, what would happen if you put the L in front of ICE? You would have
Lice.
lice. You do not want lice. I've had it as a kid. You do not want it. Believe me. So, thinking a little bit about instruction, it's all the things, how you're teaching in the classroom, modeling, all the collaborative learning that the students are doing. These are the things that you can control, what you are doing. Providing opportunities when they're getting it and when they're not getting it. The things that Mr. Douglas talked about, the curriculum, the state standards, using CMAP. And then our environment, this is not a home environment, this is our school environment. Is your classroom warm and inviting? Does it smell good? I know there is a really good smelling hallway. I think everybody knows which one it is by now. But when you walk through, you can smell. It's like, this is just wonderful. I like walking down this hall. Until maybe the afternoon, and then it's... I'm just joking.
It's not 5th grade.
And then, do you know, is it warm inviting? Is it set up? Is it set up for collaborative opportunities where the students, can work quietly when they need to, but then they can also have the opportunities to work together in groups. So just thinking about all of those things. Let's see if I forgot anything. I think I'm good. All right, so Kid Talk this is what it is. It's data driven. We're going to use data, and Kid Talk should always, be focused on data, using data to continuously monitor the effectiveness of our instruction, our interventions, and our strategies. Is what we're doing working? Okay, it's also strategic. We want to plan interventions and strategies, and strategically discuss and plan methods of assessment and progress monitoring. We need to think about working smart. We don't have time to do things that aren't working. So we need to be strategic and make sure that what we're doing is working and we're getting the biggest bang for our buck. And then it's also collaborative. Everybody needs to be involved. Thinking about how we're going to meet the needs of all the students is really matching that instruction to the needs of the students. Really thinking about everybody participating in the conversation. And as we work more on Kid Talk, we're going to talk about how that's going to look and how that's going to work, so that not just when we're talking about reading, I think we're all experts. We all went to everybody here is a great teacher, and we all have things to share, and we want to get to that comfort level where we're all sharing our ideas with each other. And we can get the best ideas from the new teachers sometimes. So new teachers, speak up and feel confident to do that. So this is kind of what Kid Talk is not. I'm not like that. I'm not going to do this or anything, but it's not subjective. It's not based on feelings. This isn't the time, to vent. You're not sitting there, oh, he's driving me crazy every time he interrupts me 10 times during the lesson, and I can't get anything done, and then I went, this is not the time. Now, I'm not saying that that's wrong to say those things, because we need to talk at lunch or after school, but this is not the time to talk about your feelings at all. It's not the road to special ed. I know when Ms. Ray was presenting at the end of last year, she talked about that. We're trying to problem solve and come up with plans to help our students be successful in the regular classroom. And it might lead to a Tier 3 plan. I'm not saying that, but that we want to try a lot of interventions first. It's not, I've already mentioned this, it's not time to gripe, and it's definitely not time to blame the student or their home life. Because remember, we're not focused on the learner in Kid Talk. We're only focused on the things that we can control. And then it's not the place to dismiss data or forget it. We need to always kind of be looking at the data. And I'm not saying that the data is always going to give us our answer, but then we need to look at something else. All right, so you probably could have guessed this, but before the meeting, the Kid Talk meeting, we're going to have a procedure and data. You need to collect data. And we're going to have a data collection tool, and I'm actually working with Ms. Burton to develop these right now, and I've started. And I'm so glad that I heard some things that Ms. Spalding, Ms. Liberto said about notebooks and folders and having that information at the meeting. Most likely it's going to be a Google Doc, and it's going to be a Google Doc, but you're also going to get a notebook that's going to go along with it that will have resources and a lot of different things that you'll need for Kid Talk. So you're going to complete the data collection tool, and that is, going to be a non-negotiable. If you come and you have not completed it, you have to do it another time. You have to be prepared, and you're going to see why in just a minute. You're going to schedule with the facilitator to get on the agenda, and most likely the facilitator is going to be your school leadership team member. And then right now we have 2 days, but that might change. And then the procedure for Kid Talk, and this is the why you have to be prepared, is because Kid Talk is 5 to 6 minutes. And I like to talk, so I understand, and I could not believe that could actually happen, and I actually said that to Ms. Burton and I were talking about Kid Talk. She has, in her role, she's a coach, so she's going and seeing Kid Talk in a lot of different places, and she's like, you know what, you don't believe me, let me show you. So she took me, and it was such a great opportunity. I went to Westlake Elementary School, and I sat through a Kid Talk for 5th grade, and I sat through a Kid Talk, no, actually it was 4th grade, right, Tina? And then I sat through a Kid Talk for 1st grade. So I got to upper and lower, and they did it. They did it, and there was a couple times when they actually did it in less than 5 to 6 minutes. You're going to state the targeted area, what are you working on? You're going to state the desired outcome, what do you want, versus what you have right now, versus your current performance data. And you're going to review the strategies that you're currently using that fall under those ICE, we talked about, instruction, curriculum, and environment. And then you're going to engage in conversation and take action for next steps. So kind of an example, and I wish we maybe had videotaped, I'm not sure if we could have, or confidentiality, but I thought about that after the fact, because I think it's so much better to watch something, but I can tell you what I saw. They had, let me give you a 1st grade example. They came, said the student's name, they kind of reviewed the notes from last time, quick, this is where they were at last time, this is a strategy that I've been doing since then that they agreed on the last time they met, this is how it's working. If it was working, they had done, one of the first graders that I saw, they had done some reading A to Z. They don't have the progress monitoring kits like we have. So they had done reading A to Z benchmark, used their progress monitoring. And so their strategy was having the students write about smaller chunks, like breaking the text down and having the student write their written response to a smaller chunk of text, and then building to something longer. And so that was the strategy they were doing, and it was working. The student had actually jumped up a couple levels. So, and then the next step was they were going to revisit it in a longer amount of time. Since the strategy was working, the student was making progress, they were going to wait and revisit it, I think, in a month. They were also year-round school, so it was a little different. And then the next step would be just kind of create a plan, set the review date like they did, and then they report it on a calendar, which also was just kind of right on Google Doc. Right then, it was reported on the calendar. So the teacher knew right when she would need, the teachers were writing it down, putting it in their phones, whatever they did to keep track. So they would know right away what it was going to be. Mr. Daniels, I see you back there.
Is there any way that you and whoever saw it, y'all could do it and videotape yourselves doing it so other people can see how it's supposed to be done? Because
Sure.
if y'all didn't believe it and then y'all can just see it,
Yeah.
I think y'all are doing the same thing. Everybody, you're saying it, but not
Right.
sure everybody believes it until they see it. So
Sure, we
y'all, like,
can figure something out. Would you like, yeah,
Would you like to be
we
the
could do
intervention
yours.
person as part of that, Mr.
Because I
Daniels?
can't visualize it.
Okay, you can't visualize how it would happen?
Not that.
Okay. All right. We'll work on that. All right. Just some reminders about Kid Talk. You need to make sure that you're using the strategy with fidelity in order to ensure effectiveness. So you say you're using a strategy. Okay, and I mean, we're all wonderful teachers. You have to use that strategy. You have to use it with the child, or you come back to Kid Talk and you're going to be in the same exact place you were when you left. And they might have learned a little bit of something, but you need to commit. And I know, I mean, it's been a while since I've been in the classroom, but I watch everybody here, and I know how busy we all are. I know it's hard to find that time, but just like figuring out those little moments, you know, it might be like when maybe it's a late bus rider and you can quickly like pull them aside to do something with them. It's just necessary. You're only talking about a couple of your students. If you have a student at Kid Talk, you're maybe going to have 2 or 3 of your students at the beginning. So if you're not using the strategies, you won't have improvement, and you're kind of, I mean, if you think about it, you're kind of wasting your teammates' time too, your PLTs, because they're letting you bring your kids to Kid Talk. You need to be using the strategies, making sure that you're doing, committing to what you guys agreed on. And then just, you know, triangulate the data whenever possible, looking at multiple data sources, looking at MClass, looking at those common assessments, looking at EOG, looking at Case 21, and that's going to vary by grade. Some examples.